Good morning, Geauga County, Lake County, Northeastern Ohio. You are listening to the Voice of Geauga, where you're going to be informed, entertained, and enlightened this morning. And we do this every day, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. We're live streaming on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube, so you can join us there, join the chat groups that are there. We love to hear your chats. We'll see how many people show up. Yes, we've got a couple of people on our chat rooms already. And we're also broadcasting on 101.5 Wint NT. Of course, if you're listening, you know that. This morning we have Cole Coleman with us of the Young Republicans, and he also has a business that he's going to talk to us a little bit about. Good morning, Cole. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Skip and John. I appreciate it, and thank you to Voice of Geauga and all your listeners out there for tuning in.
And we have Jonathan Broadbent, as usual, coming off of his birthday. We're not sure how awake he is or if he's shaking off an hangover or whatever, but probably ate too much cake, too much other goodies while he was celebrating his 30th birthday yet again.
And my 30th again. Enjoyed the heck out of it.
Hey, you can join the Young Republicans.
There you go.
Hey, well, yeah. Now that I just introduced myself as 30 and under.
Mm-hmm.
And so with us this morning is Cole Coleman, and he's with the Young Republicans. And we've talked oftentimes about Republicans, and there's different flavors of Republicans. There's some we call rhinos, Republican in name only. While they carry the label because they want to get elected or they want to be part of the cool kids gang. You know, some people just like to be part of the cool kids gang, part of the Republican group. You know, they can hang with those of us who support Trump and all that. But yet they are a little bit shaky on some of their convictions and values and so forth. But we're an open tent. Isn't that what the term is? We're an open tent. We'll take anybody who will walk the conservative line, the Republican line, and support the First Amendment, Second Amendment, capitalism, America, wave the flag, all that kind of stuff. But that's at least, everybody's got their own definition or idea of what being a Republican and or a conservative happens to be. We're going to ask Cole what his take on that is. But we've got Cole with us this morning. It is just so refreshing to look at our young people that are coming up and to, there's with Turning Point and all the activity that you see out there with what Trump did this last election process, bringing more young people into the Republican camp than I think in a long time. It's very refreshing to see young people coming back to what I like to think is conservative, rational thought. And so if I happen to trip your trigger this morning and do you want to comment on that, you can always call the program at 440-946-9468. That's 440-946-9468. You can email us at voiceofgeauga@gmail.com. And as always, you can chat with us in our chat rooms on one of our channels, Facebook, YouTube, or Rumble. So with that said, Jonathan, are you excited about the fact that young people are kind of coming back to the Republican Party and back to the conservative ranks?
Well, I'm going to speak very quickly because I want to turn our attention to Cole, our guest today. But as one of the hosts of Ohio Political News, that is a common theme. We've had the great pleasure in the 3-ish years we've been running Ohio Political News of hosting some great, sharp minds, some young conservative Republicans. With that said, I'm very happy to have Cole on with us today. Cole, tell our listening audience a little about your background and what brought you to the Republican Party.
Yeah, so in my background, I'm actually a filmmaker and creative guy. I went to film school down in Florida, and came back up. I worked on movies and projects around and my own short films. And then I got involved with politics, and I happened to fall in the deep end and became a campaign manager about 6.5 years ago. And from there, I haven't left. And so I then combined my love for film and graphic design and all that fun digital stuff with politics and being involved in my community. And then I created a business out of it and have since then been involved. And then that brought me to the Young Republicans. And I was a part of our group that formed originally in 2020. And we had a first couple meetings that were good in person. And however, after that, it quickly just became, texting, and then we didn't really meet again. And then in this last year, I kind of saw the big importance of having the YRs, and it seemed like our president was, he was kind of leaving, and I think he's out of the county now. And I appreciate what he did starting it, but we haven't gone anywhere with it. So I decided last May to reform the group, and have since kind of taken over, and just trying to reboot us and get more people involved, get more conservatives involved, and get more young people to cultivate and to network and also become our county's next future leaders.
Beautiful. Love it. That is much needed. One of the first things that popped into my head when I learned that you were going to come on and join us is some now famous, infamous scenes from one of my favorite Stanley Kubrick movies, and that is Full Metal Jacket. There are scenes in the beginning of the movie of Full Metal Jacket where the soldiers are being trained, and the drill sergeant goes around and says, "Show me your war face." And he has the guys screaming, "Rah!" They're screaming into the camera. It's pretty intense beginning scenes of the movie. There is a large part of me that feels that the expression that we're in political warfare is true. I believe that the other side, our opponents, the people who don't like America and want to see it fundamentally changed and reshaped into something else, I call it social communism, they are definitely at war, and they will stop at nothing to subvert our great free republic. So there's a part of me that wants to ask you, Cole, show us your war face. I'm not actually asking you to do that on air and on your show. There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, Cole is actually showing us his war face. If you're on social media, you'll see it on Rumble and Facebook and YouTube. But that being said,
and for me, that I first got my feeling about this in about 2014-15 when I first got involved, and I just saw where we were headed, and with the end of the Obama years, and I was scared for my future, for the country's future, for the future of my family, my kids that don't exist yet. But I'm scared for my legacy going forward, and I think that a lot of people felt like that. And so when Trump came around, I think that was a big movement, and it helped more people like me get involved. And then since then, going to rallies, being involved in the community, and then like I said, then getting involved with actual campaigns in my area, that just set off my journey. And now I'm here and involved in many different ways, and hoping to combat the left with, our young Republicans.
Before we drift too far away from your mention of the business that you started, a big part of the reason for Voice of Geauga is to promote local businesses. Can we pause and ask you to tell us more about your business and where people can find you?
Yeah, so my business is Creative Governmental Outreach, and it's a media consultant company for local campaigns. I've worked on campaigns across Ohio in various different counties and positions, from trustee to state rep, and we even worked on an independent candidacy for state secretary of state. So we I'm a one-stop shop, so we can help with all your media production, plus strategy, plus actually doing all your media ad buying. where you can see more about us at cgoworks.com.
That's cgoworks.com. I was going to ask you that. And I'll try to capture that and put it in the show notes after the show when we post this episode. So back to the subject of young Republicans. Skip mentioned something that is now, in my view, and I'm going to interject some personal opinion, the approach that the Republican Party has taken for a long time with that big tent mentality of sort of come one, come all, anybody's welcome, including lifelong far-left liberal Democrats, and come on into the tent, and we seem to have worked to elect many, has, I think, proven destructive. We're coming up on a break, but when we come back on the other side of the break, I'm going to ask Cole to comment on how we actually define Republicans in the Republican Party, and is there a vetting process? More on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
All right, Skip, are you going to keep us up on social media, or are you going to break?
I am up. What do you want to do?
All right. Well, no, I say we keep talking. Let's
Okay,
give
good.
our social media audience a little bonus material. So Cole, you rebooted in 2020, or no, was it 2020 that was the it sort of devolved into just texting and wasn't really going anywhere?
Yeah, 2020 was when it first kind of started with the Geauga Young Republicans. I actually wanted to start it myself, and at the time I told our former chairman, Nancy MacArthur, hey, I want to do this, and then she told me, well, Chris Dobeck has started it, so I was like, okay, well, I'll see where they go with it, and I'll be a part of it. You know, and we tried and we did stuff, but just didn't really go anywhere. And then with his departure, I think in the last year or two, then last year in May I took over. So trying to reboot, reform, and get more people involved.
If you'll humor me for a moment with a little personal perspective, many years ago, another gentleman by the name of Dan Schumann and I started the Beechwood Young Professionals as an offshoot of the Beechwood Chamber of Commerce. I spent about 16 years involved in the Beechwood Chamber, and we decided, a very similar sort of mentality, we decided we needed a kind of a space for young professionals to encourage each other, get to know, and a lot of the folks were, silver-haired like I am now. But we started up the Beechwood Young Professionals. We had a lot of support from the chamber, but it was kind of slow going at first. I think that's fairly common. And whatever happens from here, I want to drop the word of encouragement in your ear, and whatever it takes, even if it's kind of slow going and fits and starts and all that stuff, just keep pushing. And eventually, I really, truly hope that you get a robust young Republican club in Geauga.
Yeah, thank you for those words of encouragement. I think it's very true, and it's hard at first, but I think it's important to have, and I think a lot of people assume that Geauga doesn't have young people that want to get involved, and I kind of disagree. I know a lot of young conservatives, and I know people that do care and that they do vote Republican, but the problem is they don't know about this. They don't know what we do with the parties. They don't know about the stuff that
30 seconds.
So, it's hard to, get them to, hey, like, this is going on, join us, and we can help support each other. So we just want to get that word out.
10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga on WINT 101.5 FM, 1330 AM. And if you have any trouble picking us up over the air, you can go to wintradio.com or go to voiceofgeauga.com. Either has a little button that you can stream this show any day of the week, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Joining us today, we have Cole Cornell, leader of the Geauga County Young Republicans. Before we went to break, I was asking about that old adage, that, and maybe it's dying off, and maybe we're going to start doing a better job of vetting and due diligence on those we welcome into the Republican Party. What do you think about that big tent philosophy in the Republican Party, Cole?
I think the Big Tent is, it's too big in my opinion. I think I want people to join, and I want as many as we can. But if we just let anybody in for the sake of joining, then we're just going to have more problems with maybe not just rhinos, but also people that are maybe taking the party in a totally different direction, which is what my concern would be. Because we do want to try and keep our values and keep our morals and what we all stick to as Republicans. So I don't want to see that change too much, but at the same time, I'm also not an old Republican. I'm not a old Bush Republican or anything like that. I'm not a neocon. I want us to not be in wars outside of our country. I don't want us to get involved and pay money to all these other things. I want us to be America first. So I want more Republicans like that.
Hey, Cole, FYI, I just put your logo up on our broadcast. So everybody on the channels now, just as an update, hopefully that's okay with you. You now are getting a little free advertisement today, so you're spending some time with us. So I put your logo from your website up on the on our broadcast, and somebody can see the name of your company, Creative Government Outreach. I did have a question for you. So what is your dealing with young people today? Give me a sense for where the majority of young people are that you're working with. What's their attitude? What's their mindset? Are they excited about, the Republican Party? And, how do they feel about what happened with Turning Point? Give us a sense for the young people that you work with.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of ups and downs. I think everyone was excited about Trump. I think everyone was excited about Charlie Kirk. And then we were all sad with the murder of Charlie Kirk. And that was something that was just, it just won't be forgotten. And it changed everything for not only us young Republicans, but, everyone across the country. And they also saw, things that they didn't want to see, things like the Epstein list and things back and forth, and then affordability. That's one of their big concerns too. So I've seen young Republicans even complain about, certain leaders that the party's trying to kind of, shove down our throats in a way that they're not happy with. And I'm glad to hear that, because that means we're having a dialogue, we're having a discussion, we're having opinions about these leaders that we have in our party. So I love that. I think the issues that our party members and young Republicans are talking about the most are definitely affordability. And I think they're going to try and pin this on Trump in the midterms for sure, the Democrats. But he has made a difference in that so far, and they expect what Biden did in 40 years to destroy this country for Trump to to do it in what, months? He's already turned around so much, but the hole is so big. There's so much more to do. And I know for me and other young Republicans, affordability when it comes to prices of food and all that, and also with housing especially. Geauga County has a big housing affordability issue where we have a great, beautiful county and beautiful different parts as it changes in the landscape and what's around. But the prices of everything for first families, it's going to be hard for them. So I have a lot of friends who would love to move back into this county and be closer with their families, but they can't because they can't afford that first home. So I would love to see something happen with that and get more first families in here, and also help that issue for our young Republicans out there. And they also don't want to see more war. They don't want us going over again to the Middle East. They don't want us to give billions and billions of dollars away to other people. They want to see that come back here to our own country and to help their families, especially when you see all this fraud going on and you see what's happening with these Somalis and other people, across the countries in these groups. And of course, it's not everyone, and I don't want to use a blanket term like that, but it's a lot of them. And why is it that group? You have to ask these questions. And why is it these certain people in these certain places? And who's organizing this? And who helped them do these bad things? So I think really we're tired of seeing everyone else get the help or get the benefits but us.
So
I think.
let me expand on the question, because you just said a lot that
Sorry,
Jonathan.
I covered a lot.
Jonathan, we need to have a special program on affordability. Let's put that down as a topic, because
Absolutely.
I just filled up my truck the other day with gas at Costco, which, by the way, they have really good prices on gas. But it would cost me at one time $70 to fill up my car. It cost me $46 to fill up my truck. Now, I don't know how many young people are even paying attention to that. And from an affordability standpoint, from a housing affordability standpoint, yeah, housing has gone up, and we've had this crisis lately over property tax and this whole initiative, because property tax has gone up significantly as a result of the state. And they use artificially jacking up home values, which is kind of plays into what you were just talking about. But at least within my experience, if you're a young person, you've always had a problem getting into your first home. I mean, I did when I was young. You're just starting out, so you've got your incomes are lower, and so getting that first home is always a challenge. It's always been that way. And so my curiosity is, how did the perspective that some young people have may be a little bit distorted and be a product of our media, which is feeding poison to everybody, and so they tend to latch on to this misinformation. It's a little bit like we're going over to Iran right now, and so there may be this perception that, we're starting up a war. No, what we're doing is we're preventing wars. So Trump is reshaping the Middle East, which is going to benefit everybody on a long-term basis. We're totally changing the Gaza Strip, and hopefully that'll be a resort area one of these days. And so I don't think the young people understand, I think, all of the machinations of what's going on. So give me your take on young people's view of all that.
I think that's true, Skip. But let's step by step. Let's focus on affordability and how we define that. Wars in the Middle East will be a secondary part of the conversation. Your thoughts on defining affordability, Cole?
Yeah, I think when Skip talked about the gas, it's definitely come down, and that's definitely because of Trump's efforts and everything that he's done just in his, first term, or his first year in office. But the other affordability parts of it, when it comes to housing and the taxes and all this other stuff, I think, it should be. It's not easy for anyone to get their first home and make their first property purchase. I think that's definitely a given. However, I think young people in my generation and the next one coming up, they're just seeing their efforts of working harder, but they're getting less. And it's just happening more and more over the years, and that is not encouraging. And you have, when the dollar is inflated as it has been, especially under Biden, they're getting less with it. I mean, it's easy to say. I mean, my grandparents and others, they could get a house for 3 blueberries, and now it's worth $2 million. So, but it's harder for us to make that purchase now. And a side note, I'm also involved in real estate. I have some rentals myself, so I'm glad I got in when I did. So that's helped me as well. But I'd love to see other young people have that shot. So I think we need to have some sort of encouragement and also some policies that can help with that. And all this fraud and all these illegals that have come in, they've upped the housing prices. That
certainly doesn't help.
Stuff.
Sorry, I need to step on your toes there, Cole. We're coming up on a break. A few things. Remember that inflation is the hidden tax, and that ultimately what the young Republicans, young folks need to understand is that government spending equals inflation. The more they spend, the more government spends of our money, the higher inflation goes. More on this on the other side of the break.
So we've got, Jonathan, when we come back, we've got a bunch of people in the chat room that have been asking questions and commenting.
Mics
So
are off. Mics are off.
we might want to get some of those questions out to Cole too. So
Yeah, that's, I was heading there.
I like the last comment that we just got.
Yeah. You're being encouraged to run against Commissioner Brakey in one of the comments there, Cole.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's commissioners and some of their dubious actions recently and moves to silence the public because they don't like being called out for their dubious actions. They're not popular.
Yeah, I saw what happened with the public comments decision now recently, and we should be having more transparency, more time for people to talk. And if you think it's taken too long at your public meeting, well, why don't you make some time in the evening or make another day to meet? You know, you don't have to cut people's time.
Well, they're being paid 80 grand a year, something like that, and they don't want to spend more than 2 hours a week. I mean, come on, give me a break. These are our public servants, and they're being paid to do a job, and part of that job is listening to people. So I'm sorry, but if you don't want to do the job, then maybe you ought to look someplace else.
It is a travesty what's happening in our Central Committee. And just like in my book,
Total opposite. And we need people that are going to think differently. I mean, you can't just go in there and do the same old, and, get people upset. I mean, we need people that actually care about this county, care about this country, and do things differently, because who wants the same?
I have this totally wild idea that there should be accountability once people get elected. Isn't that crazy?
What an idea.
So I believe, as a party, should be holding people to account. And when we come back, I'd like to bring us into some conversation about what
30 seconds.
What it means to have a Republican Party. Do we want top down or bottom up? And that's an important question to be asking. I am absolutely 100% one of those people that advocates for the Republican Party getting back to what works, which is being the voice of the people.
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent, and our special guest today, Cole Cornell. We're talking about young Republicans in today's conversation, and one of the things that I brought up during the break I'd like to drill down on, and we do want to get to social media. We've got some great questions in the Rumble chat, but give me one moment because I'd like to interject something that I think will help feed the conversation and give an understanding of Cole's position. and that is how the Republican Party should work. Is it top down, like the Democrat Party? Everybody follow orders, and the top will give instructions, and everybody should march in lockstep. Or is the Republican Party the voice of the people? Is it bottom up? What are your thoughts on that, Cole?
Yeah, I think when we first got Trump in there, and Trump, really came about, that was the people's voice. That was the bottom up saying this is what we want, and that's why it was such a a populist vote, big popular vote and movement to get Trump in there, and same with his second time, and because people don't like him, and love him or hate him, he gets the job done, and he does it with his own flair and personality. And in a normal world, maybe pre-Obama and all that, like, it'd be harder to get someone like that. But the times call for God's servant. They call for the right man, and Trump was the right man, and he's the captain in the storm that we all needed. And so the party should work that way. The party should work from the bottom up. The Democrats definitely have their higher ups and their elites, and they just call down from their tower and they tell their sheep what to do. And I think some Republicans and some of the rhinos, they try to do that. And, they try to do that, but we try to tell them no. And we need to vote those people out. And you're seeing a lot of that, especially in the primary times of Republicans kind of going at it. And that's why we have a difference between the Democrats and Republicans. Democrats, very good at loyalty, very good at sticking together, and that helps them at the right times. Republicans, we stick more to our principles and our values and morals, which is important, but it also causes some civil war problems within our own party, which are needed, but at the same time, we need to be able to do that process and then come together as a party.
Well, there's a question in the Rumble chat from One Concrete. Are young people in Geauga County worried about getting involved because of backlash or being harassed by peers, employers, etc.?
Yes, that's very true. That I do have an issue with that for some young Republicans. They say they'd like to join, but if they put that out there or someone found out, then they do worry about their employment or certain people finding out and giving them a hard time, which I understand. I've been in similar situations like that, and when I was in college, I was tortured and harassed for being a Trump supporter. I had my car dented in and gum on my car because I had Trump bumper stickers and Ben Carson bumper stickers. So I was part of the 1%, but part of my personality is I'm not going to be silenced by bullies. So I do get other people that have their situations for their family and their work, and if they can't, then they can't. But if you want to be part of this voice, then you should definitely join us.
Maybe as a starting point, we can reference a great comment from Darafy. Darafy says, I would love to see more young people at these local meetings. It's not good when I go and I'm one of the youngest folks there. So maybe, short of actually putting Trump bumper stickers on your car or wearing a MAGA hat or on social media admitting to joining the Republican Party. And it just sounds so strange to me to be saying that in this supposed two-party system we have, that there is this ridiculous social backlash for people joining a political party or becoming involved. But maybe just simply going and listening in and asking questions at local meetings is a good first step. Right, Cole?
Yeah, I would say definitely get involved, look at your local meetings, look at your township trustee meetings, look at your, city council, any of that stuff. Check in. You can even look online at some of these meetings too, if they post it on YouTube or their website. Maybe start to follow some people on social media, follow your local government agencies. You'll start to see what's going on, and then just take the next step and, maybe attend a meeting in person and ask a question and see where that takes you. And then you're going to start to meet people that are also involved, and that'll take you other places too.
So there's a question about last week's shenanigans at the Republican State Central Committee that took place on Friday. But I'm actually going to interject that at the local level, we have a county level Republican Party. The leadership of that is referred to as the Central Committee. Skip and I both happen to be members of that. We've been elected representatives of precincts within Geauga County. That's your local Republican Party. So as we talk about these things like top down versus bottom up, all of those things factor into how the Republican Party works or doesn't work. And they are the apparatus that could bring accountability when we do elect people as Republicans, holding them to account and making sure that they actually act like Republicans. I know Cole knows this, but I'm saying it for the perspective of the listening audience. At the state level, we have the state Republican Party that is designed and supposed to take their instruction from the counties like Geauga. And whatever we say to do, it's their job to follow through and make those instructions known and heard and put them into action. On Friday, we saw exactly the opposite. We saw the State Central Committee decide against the will of the people, against Republican Party endorsements at the county level, which is complete top-down perspective. What are your thoughts on that, Cole?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to see it. We have issues here locally, and we have issues obviously across the state as well. And I want to see parties definitely working from the bottom up, but we're not seeing them help even local candidates. I mean, the party's job is to help candidates and Republican candidates win. I worked on some elections in this last November general election, and I worked with candidates that they put a lot of money into their campaign, especially for small things like school board races and stuff like that, where you don't usually see as much money come in. But what you did see in that election was the difference between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. And the Democrat Party had their machine cooking, and they turned out voters, and the Republican Party did not. And so they need to have their own system as well for voter turnout. So besides, instead of this top-down telling Republicans, hey, you're going to vote for this person and you're going to like it, they also need to listen to the voters and also get voters to turn out. So I see problems all over with the party, and which is why you should get involved locally, get involved with your party, get involved with your young Republicans.
Yeah, so again, I want to put the plug in for Geauga County Young Republicans. Find Cole. And Cole, I'm going to ask you what social media platforms you're on, how people can find you, how they can find ways if they are, you said your age group is 18 to 30?
So we are actually 40 and under is a young Republican.
Oh, okay.
So that is the age for National Young Republicans, also Ohio Young Republicans. So we are 40 and under. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, Geauga County Young Republicans, or at Geauga YR. And we also have a link for a survey, which I'm hoping Voice of Geauga will share as well. And on our social media pages, you'll find that link as well. So if you or anyone else is interested in signing up and joining our group, you can share that link, and also just use it, put in your info, and we'll reach out to you.
Cole has shared that link with us. We will grab that link and share it on social media. Actually, during the upcoming break, I will grab it and put it onto Facebook and Rumble, and I think Skip, you said we're also live on YouTube. I'll do my best to put that there.
Yeah, we can put it on the
show notes.
We can put it on the website also. We'll put it on the website. So.
Oh, terrific. Yeah. We'll put it on the website. We need to get a lot of attention there. And as I mentioned, Skip and I are both elected representatives of the County Republican Party. We're on the Central Committee, each of us representing our community, or it's referred to as a precinct. And that is a great opportunity for anybody interested in what's happening with the Republican Party to come tune in. The meetings are now open, generally speaking, with rare exception. There's great opportunity when you hear about the Geauga County Central Committee meeting, come listen in. See what people are talking about and voting on and doing and deciding. These are really important things. We're coming up on a break. One of the things that I want to come back to has to do with this big push, and I think it's a what word do I want to use? It's a psychological torment of young people to keep talking about this affordability. Affordability is thrown around and misused and overused in all the wrong contexts. So that we're supposed to ignore the things that are chugging along and doing nicely in our economy and focus disproportionately on things that have ended up overly expensive because primarily of government spending. I work in finance. I have, if you're a listening audience and have been over here for a while, you know that I have a background on Wall Street. These sorts of things matter, and understanding tax policy, spending policy, and things like wars that have an impact. We're going to ask Cole more questions and continue the conversation on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
That's what I was waiting for. So we're still live streaming. So Cole, you and I can continue the conversation for our live stream audience. But there's about a 10-second lead time where we try to stay radio silent on the microphones as we go into and out of breaks. So our watching audience on social media tends to, they know that. As promised, I think what I'm going to do here is pull up that email, and I'll make sure to grab that. So our listening audience on social media, I've got, here it is, here's the link. It's a Google Docs folder that Cole has created, or Google Docs link. Or no, it's not Google. Yeah, it's Google Docs. Yes, it is. So, Cole, I'm putting this into the chats. There it is. It's shared out now on Rumble, and I'm sharing it out on Facebook. And I don't actually have the Voice of Geauga YouTube channel pulled up. I'll have that in a moment. But feel free to hop in there, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, in our podcast listening audience, if you know young professionals, young people in Geauga County, and Cole, is there an age that's too young? Do you want to be talking to kids in elementary school?
I'd be talking to high schoolers if they are interested. When we were at the Geauga,
About 20 seconds. 20 seconds.
when we were at the fair, we had a sign up in the GOP tent, and I had some high schoolers come up and talk to us, and they signed up, and I reached out to them, and I'm happy to talk to those high schoolers as well because I can talk to them about starting up a turning
10
point.
seconds. 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga and WINT Radio with Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent, and our special guest, Cole Cornell, joining us talking about young Republicans. And we've got a few things. This is our final segment. We're going to throw a few things out at you really quickly. One is, please do keep in mind as you're communicating with young folks, that means kids and your grandkids, the 40 and under in your sphere of connection. This overused term of affordability is being used as kind of a battering ram to make people think that government can come along and make things more affordable. And the exact opposite is true. That is 100%. It's 180 degrees opposite the truth. The more government is active, the less affordable things become, because all they can do is spend our tax money. When they spend our tax money, and here in Geauga that's plainly apparent, they make things unaffordable by overspending on things like $400,000 office renovations and new buildings and stuff. So they lavish attention on themselves often, these government officials, and build new programs and expand, that makes things unaffordable. Also, we have a few different ways for folks to get involved. I'm sharing out on social media some links. There's actually a link that Cole has shared. Share that link out with young 40 and under who you know in Geauga County, and let's get the conversation going. Cole, tell us more about your thoughts on the term affordability. And do you agree with me? You understand the connections between taxation, spending, and what is affordable?
Yes, so I do agree with you. I think the government can definitely help things be more unaffordable and definitely have more spending and more inflation, and which is a silent tax that everyone should hate and be against. But of course, during Biden's time, the media tried to play it off as, oh, it's nothing, it's fine, you're good. But, you know, the affordability is the key word right now, and it's going to be through these midterms, and the Democrats are going to try and use it against Trump the whole time. So I think from a messaging standpoint, this will be the word, affordability, and will continue to be the word in the campaigning. And I think, you know, government can, you know, help facilitate and stop, you know, bad policy that will encourage unaffordability. But in the end, it's going to come down to the private sector, to small businesses, to people getting involved and helping to change the financial future and help the economy. Because it's really up to you. You shouldn't look to the government to save you. You should look to yourself to save yourself and your family. And there's a lot of opportunity in this day and age to do that.
You know, the other part to there's two parts to the calculation for affordability. So there's the cost of things, but there's also the wage rates. And wage rates have been going up. And I don't know how many young people are impacted or even see that. So there's this, you know, I think you said it earlier in the show, Cole, Biden dug a hole for us, and Trump is trying to fix it. What Biden did in 4 years, and actually, you know, Trump was well on his way in his first term, and then Biden got in there and really wrecked things, and inflation went through the roof, and gas prices went through the roof, and egg prices went through the roof, and so now Trump is trying to get us back out of the hole, and so things don't happen as quickly as what you'd like to see. But wage rates have a big impact on this, and wage rates are actually going up. Do young people see that?
You know, I think people see that, but, you know, they are told constantly online and, you know, by the media that you can't afford this, you can't afford that. And, you know, it just harps on their minds. And even though they're paying less at the gas pump and, you know, less with certain things, you know, they still see things not as affordable. And a lot of young people, unfortunately, I hate to say it, they don't have a good view of the future. A lot of them are more depressed about what is going to come, and they want to be able to have a family. They want to be able to afford a home. They want all these things. I mean, I want all those things, but we're seeing a future where that's going to be harder and harder. And, you know, unless we can turn some things around. So I want to help encourage that. But I think when it comes to affordability and stuff, you know, even when they see these wages go up, you know, they're still seeing, you know, some high costs for themselves. And again, I when it comes to taxing too, I think if you want to discourage anything, tax it. You know, if you want to discourage more work, if you want to discourage innovation and investing and all that good stuff, then you should tax it, because people are just going to keep saying, well, why am I working so hard, and why am I, you know, putting all of this that I have into something when they just take it away from me. So I think we need to help get a positive message out there.
Yeah, on that note,
regulation.
Yeah, well, that's true. You know, young people need to be encouraged, and we need to send the message to young people. Things are improving. So things are looking up for the country. Things are looking up for young people's future. I mean, I was in the Apple store the other day, and it was jam-packed. And you know what? There was a lot of young people in there buying Apple computers, iPhones, iPads, so that things must not be that tough if they can afford, you know, kind of luxury items, so to speak. And so I think it's kind of a weird situation we're in because I see a lot of young people out getting dinner, and dinners are more expensive and so forth. So it is a positive future coming. We just got to beat that drum. We got to send that message and counter the media, which is sending all this negative, negative, negative. No, it's actually pretty positive out there, people. So
Yeah, we definitely need more positive messaging, and we need to get that across, and especially, Republicans need to get that across for these midterm elections for sure, because we already see what the Democrats are doing with it. So, it may be slower coming than Biden's, fast, fall off the cliff approach, but, it's happening. Things are getting better.
yeah, the Republicans are terrible at messaging. I'll give you that.
There's a great comment from Darafy. A huge link to the affordability, and that's in quotes, in the country is not only the folks illegally in the country, but also the big, I'm adding a little bit to this, but just mentions H-1B visas. That there's a big dust up there. It's a big concern about how many people we let in, even on the legal side. So there are two elements to this conversation. There are illegals entering the country and taking jobs, and then we know that they're siphoning off. There's some fraud connected with those communities. There's also a lot of money that's collected in U.S. dollars and then sent overseas to pay other families and maintain other families abroad. But also, even on the legal side, shipping a lot of people in to displace and take jobs that otherwise might go to American citizens and students. What are your thoughts on that, Cole?
Well, I've had even some of our own Geauga County young Republicans talk about this with the HB1 visas and everything. I want to see, first and foremost, opportunities go to Americans, and jobs and special, learning and all that for Americans. I'm all for legal immigration. However, look at where we're at now. Biden and them have let in tens of millions of people. And when you see how many people have come in over the last even 30 years, I think it's 50, 60 million people that have come in here that are foreign born. That's a lot. And that changes a country. And that can affect your culture and everything else, your economy and your housing, all that good stuff. So I'm for legal immigration, but what is going to also help this economy and help all of us too is being able to deport those that should not be here and those that are sucking up opportunities for Americans. So we need to find that balance again.
Absolutely. Cole, we're coming up on the conclusion of our show. I'd like to thank you for coming on Voice of Geauga. I hope that you'll come back again in the future. This has been another episode of Voice of Geauga. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and thanks Cole Cornell for coming on and joining us.
Thank you guys for having me, and thanks to your listeners.